Welcome csc103 class to part 2 of what was called exercise 10, maybe a different number now, but it's turtle squares, and it's kind of our introduction to using Python with the Trinket online IDE. So we'll be drawing little things with our turtle modules, which will be kind of more fun to do because it's visual. And basically after the introduction video where we just kind of went through kind of practicing a little bit and looking at Trinket and creating our account and all that kind of stuff, now we're going to create a square. And again, nothing really complicated here, but we're going to give our turtle instructions. We're going to create our turtle and we're going to give them some instructions. So that's where this is going to start. Hopefully you already created your account. You already named it. I did that in the last video. And I already put the line import turtle. And basically that imports a turtle module, which isn't naturally, if you don't put that, it's not going to know how to use turtle commands. So you can't just, Python won't just understand turtle commands unless you kind of use import turtle, unless it knows it's using the turtle module and it has access to it. And what we're going to do first is we're going to create a turtle. It's Tommy equals turtle.turtle. And I'm going to type it instead. You could copy stuff from here, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hit two returns here. And I'm going to do Tommy. Now that's giving it an instance name is going to be Tommy. That's going to be the name of my turtle. And I'm just going to say turtle.turtle with a capital. And you can see it's coming up here as a little cheat. And I'm going to put these opening and closing parentheses. This is a class, the turtle class that it's using. We're also going to use a screen class at some point, but this is the turtle class. It's basically saying Tommy is a turtle of the turtle class. That's kind of what's happening here from the turtle module that we're working in. What we're going to do is we're going to put them on the screen. So we're going to say, if we look back at the instructions, you could look at the instructions. We're going to give them two things. We're going to give them a shape and we're going to give them a color. And we're going to use this dot syntax. We're going to say Tommy.shape, and then in parentheses we're going to have to give them a color. And then we're going to say Tommy.color, and in parentheses we're going to have to give like an argument or some kind of attribute that's a color. And all of these will go in quotes, as you can see here. And eventually it should look like this. This is what we should see from our instructions here. So let's go back and do that. So we're going to go Tommy.shape, and you can see it coming up here. And I could just choose that. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put turtle. Remember, you have to use quotes, and it's lowercase turtle. And I'll do Tommy.color, and I'll just put green. Or you could use the hex. I don't remember if I put it. Did I use hex on here? Yeah, there's hex. It's actually a little lighter than, remember when we talked about hex color, 9's a little bit lighter than the one we're using. And we could check that out. We could, or you could just leave green. If you put green here, it's kind of darker. If you want to use 009900, you could run that, and that's coming up as black. Oh, I know why that's coming up as black. It's actually not reading this because I don't have the pound sign there. There we go. Now we have a lighter green, so we're using a lighter green. And if we used F, or darker green, if we used FF, it would be a brighter green. As we go down with these numbers, remember going down with these numbers, if you go down to DD, it'll be a little bit darker. If you use AA, it'll be a little bit darker. And then finally we used 99. So whatever you want to use there, it's not a big deal. So there's our green turtle. So now we have our turtle, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a square with him. So we're going to give him some instructions. So we don't have to make a function or anything yet. We could just start giving him some instructions. So the first instruction we're going to give him, and since this is just him being created, I'm going to actually hit a return here, and because that's just, he's not really doing anything, and I'm going to say Tommy dot, and they use an instruction called forward. Sometimes they have an instruction called move that you'll see in code.org, but here they call forward. And he's just going to move forward. And you have to put something in here. If you just run it like this, you'll get an error, and it'll say it needs an argument. You didn't give an argument. You have to put how far forward. So we're just going to say 100. So we're going to say move forward 100. And that's what it's going to do. That's all it does. And notice that it draws a line because it has its pen down by default. So we're going to leave it down by default, so he kind of creates an empty square, and then we're going to fill the square. So we're going to make a square. So he just moved forward, and right now the only instructions we're going to use for him are just going to be forward. So you can see he moved eastward to start, and that's kind of its default. So it moves east, or it moves to the right, and it moves forward. So that's what he did first. So if we want to make a square, he has to turn. So we're going to have to turn him, so that'll be another kind of little method we're going to have to give him. And we're going to say Tommy dot, and right now we're just going to move him left. They give you just the instructions that he can only turn left. And so he's going to turn left, and this will be degrees. This is kind of pixels, but you don't put a value in here. This will be degrees. So if we move him 90 degrees, because this is 0 degrees, so if we move him 90 degrees left, that should make him kind of angle this way, and you can see now he turned. So now that he moved and turned, now he's going to do the same thing. He's actually going to repeat these same things again. He's going to go up and turn. So, you know, you could literally do this. You could copy these two lines and do them again, and then what he should do is move forward, turn, move forward, and turn. So let's run it again, and that's what he does. He moves forwards and turns, moves forwards and turns. So how easy is that? Now I could copy these 4 lines, because you know he's going to have to do it 2 more times. Instead of doing all this typing, I'll just paste all that code again. And now he turns, he turns, he turns. We're almost done. So we already drew our first square. That was pretty easy. And we did these kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, these 8 lines of code to do this. Now this gets very repetitive, and doing stuff like this, eventually we're going to find more efficient ways of doing it. But just to get started and learning what he does, that's how we do this. Now the last part of this, what we're going to do is we're going to have him move to right about here, and he's going to turn and face forward. Now what we have to know, and we're also going to fill it. So actually let's look at our instructions before we get ahead of ourselves. We can fill the square with green because that's what it says to do on 20 here. I'll zoom in a little bit here on my instructions. It says to use something called Tommy begin fill and Tommy end fill. So you have to do that before he creates the square so that you know that he's filling it. So we're going to do that. So we're going to go back to our turtles, and right here I'm going to do Tommy dot, and I'm going to do something called begin fill, and it's coming up here. So hopefully it's coming up here to give you some of those little hints. And you do not need an argument for begin fill. You don't have to put anything in here. And then at the end I'm going to do Tommy dot end fill, and that should come up. And again, no arguments, but you do need the parentheses. All these do need parentheses. So some of them are going to be empty, some of them are going to have values that are required. You know, even here, there's an empty one up here for the class. So when I do this, it should fill the square now when it's all done. And there it is. It just filled the square. Now we're going to move the turtle down here. So that's going to be a separate kind of thing. So I'm even going to hit return twice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the turtle, and we do something called go to. And I'm going to do Tommy.go to. And it's all one word, go to. And in parentheses, you put an X and Y. Now if you remember, when we start, everything starts at X at 0, 0. Everything starts at 0, 0. So this is 0, 0. So we're going to move him. If we want to center him under the square, if this is 0, 0 and our square is 100, halfway across is about 50. So we're going to go across about 50, and then down is going to be negative numbers. If this is 0, we have to go down negative. And we're going to go down maybe down 25 or so. It doesn't matter. If you want it further away, you could go further away. But we're going to have, his X is going to have to be, I guess, 50, and his Y is going to be like negative 25. So that's what we're going to do to get him to this point. And then we're going to spin him around, and we're going to change his color back to black, or back to the default. So let's first get him to that point. So we're going to go down here and say go to, and for the X and Y coordinates, I'll say 50 is for my X, and then a comma. You don't need a space in here. And I'll do negative 25, and I'll just see what happens. I'll run it. All right, a couple problems here. One is we still have the line there, so we're going to have to lift his pen up, and then we have to turn him around. So to make him forward, he's going to have to spin 90 degrees. So we already know how to do that, so that's pretty easy. We could even copy one of these and put it here after he gets here. We could make him turn left 90 degrees. And before he even goes there, we're going to lift his pen up. So I'm going to do Tommy.pen up. It's just one word. And that does not get any kind of argument in there. So let's run that and see what happens. So it's going to lift his pen up. He's going to go there and spin around. That's kind of what we want. But we didn't turn him black either. So let's make him go back to his original black color so he looks a little different from the square. And we can do this at any point. We can make him turn that color before he even goes here. So we could maybe do it in between here, and we do Tommy dot. Now if you remember, how do you change his color? It's right up here. This is how we do it up here. You could even copy this. You could even do a Control-C, copy Tommy.color, and put it right down here. And if you want it black, you could just type in black, lowercase, and run it. And you can see he kind of changes black up here, wherever you want, but that's actually what we want. So one thing we're going to want to do with this, and this is just a little thing, but our screen area, our little screen world that we're working on, if you notice 0, 0 is at the center, and that's where the turtles start. But that makes our square kind of off-center, and if we wanted to put our square right in the middle, we would have to move it over, and we'd actually have to adjust where it starts because the turtles start at 0, 0, so we'd have to adjust the starting point. So if we wanted to do that, we would have to adjust its X and Y point of where it starts. Now, we did use a go-to down here, so I'm going to copy this go-to for Tommy. I'm going to put it at the very top before we start anything, and I'll put it right here and hit a return so it's on a separate line. Now, instead of starting at 0, 0 is where they usually start, what we're going to try and do here and see how this works is instead of starting at 0, which makes it go that way, we're going to start at halfway across so that it centers our square. Our square is 100 total. So you can see our square is 100 total. So in order to be centered on that, we'd have to go to the left or go west half of that, which would be minus 50. So if we actually put this at minus 50 instead of 0, and then we still keep our y at 0 because it's still going to start at the same point up and down, we're going to try that and just see if we can make everything centered. Now we are going to have to adjust this too. So let's just do this first and just run it and see what happens. And now we can see our square centered, except now our turtle is no longer centered. So now we just have to move our turtle over. Instead of our turtle at negative 25, which was half of kind of where it was, we're going to move our turtle over. I think the turtle can now be at 0. So if the turtle is going to be in the middle of our square, that should be 0. So the turtle can be at 0. It's still going to be negative 25 down. So let's see how that works. And that's perfect. That's all we want. So that's part 2 of the videos. And what we're going to do, I'll do one more video, and we're just going to basically copy all this stuff and make another square and just make some adjustments. But rather than make this too long, I think we'll stop here. So this will be the end of part 2 of turtle squares, as long as we get our green square centered in the middle with our turtle underneath it by just adjusting some of these go-tos. What we're going to do is I'll show you how to copy all this code, and we're going to paste it, and then we're just going to update the instance that we're going to use. We're going to use a different instance, a different turtle, and then we're just going to make a different colored square underneath it. So that'll be pretty quick. So we'll do that as part 3.